Chapter 31 Hongjun's Meaning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The battle between Qinglian and Hongjun shook the world, but the secret dealings were completely hidden, so much so that no powerful figure noticed them until two auras suddenly appeared behind Hongjun. Because Hongjun was completely focused on his fight with Qinglian, he didn't realize that someone else was trying to take advantage of the chaos. Only when the two figures behind him raised the Hichu Luo Shu and the Chaos Bell to attack did he sense the overwhelming power. Hongjun was seriously wounded by Di Jun and Tai's magic weapons. He realized it was a trap set by Qinglian and Di Jun and Tai. Qinglian bowed to Di Jun and Tai, who had just arrived. "Thank you for your help, Your Majesty." That without Di Jun's Hichu Luo Shu, Qinglian would have had to worry about Jin Yuanzi, who was far away in Wuzhuangwan, if he wanted to take action against Hongjun, but now that the secret was concealed, seizing the Hongmeng Purple Qi from Hongjun would be a piece of cake. Qinglian unleashed the 99 soul-removing gourd, clearly intending to end Hongjun's life. Hongjun's strength was fading, but he wasn't backing down. "You won't get the Hongmeng Purple Qi so easily." Hongjun's aura surged. Surrounded by Qinglian and the others, his power seemed to surpass theirs, reaching a fever pitch. When they realized what he was about to do, Di Jun and Tai's expressions changed. "No, he's going to blow himself up." Tai immediately released his Chaos Bell. The next second, Hongjun's body exploded, forcing a quasi-sage to self-destruct, released a force that obliterated everything within 1,000,000 miles. If it weren't for the Chaos Bell, the three emperors would have been seriously injured, if not killed. But Hongjun used the explosion as cover and immediately fled. He reached the Netherworld Blood Sea in a flash. Just as he was about to plunge into the Netherworld to hide in the Sea of Blood, a figure emerged. "Fellow Taoist Hongjun. I didn't want to kill you, but fate is what it is. Hand over the Hongmeng Purple Qi, and I'll let your original spirit go." Hongjun didn't expect to jump from the frying pan into the fire, landing in the clutches of Taoist sticks, but handing over the Hongmeng Purple Qi was out of the question. Not a chance. Hongjun prepared to escape, but before he could move, a powerful pressure descended on the entire sea of Netherworld blood. Hongjun and sticks were frozen in place. Hope flickered in Hongjun's eyes. A saint had arrived. And it was the two from the west. Now that the two Westerners had become saints, they wouldn't want the Hongmeng Purple Qi. He was saved. But before Hongjun could celebrate, a loud voice boomed. "Hongjun, your strength is spent. Today is your end." Jane and Zhundi had no interest in the Hongmeng Purple Qi. They were saints, and the Hongmeng Purple Qi meant nothing to them, but coming here was part of a larger plan. If Di Jun and Tai could handle it, they wouldn't have bothered, but who knew Hongjun would blow himself up and run. So Zhundi and Jane had to step in and finish the job. Hongjun never imagined that these two saints would personally come after a mere quasi-sage. He was trapped, with no hope of escape. Despair filled his eyes. Was this the end? Just as Zhundi and Jane attacked, a whip lashed out. Zhundi and Jane were stunned. They saw the newcomer and their eyes narrowed. "Nuwa, what are you doing here?" Nuwa had intended to remain hidden, the sixth man, but those shameless Zhundi and Jane had interfered. For her disciples Hongmeng Purple Qi, she had no choice but to intervene. Nuwa scoffed. "You two can be here, why can't I?" With Nuwa's arrival, hope flickered again in Hongjun's eyes. Zhundi and Jane's brows furrowed. "Nuwa, do you want to oppose us?" They were two saints, and there was only one Nuwa. Nuwa ignored them, holding the innate gourd vine in her right hand and a red hydrangea in her left. "I've been wanting to test the strength of my senior brothers." Jane and Zhuandi's expressions darkened. Zhuandi gritted his teeth. "Junior sister, do you really want to make enemies of us?" Nuwa didn't answer, but the red hydrangea in her hand flew toward Jane. Jane almost lost her composure. Nuwa's move made it clear she held them in contempt. Jane and Zhuandi snapped. They unleashed their magic weapons, attacking Nuwa from both sides. Nuwa didn't even flinch. Seeing Zhuandi's 7 treasures wonderful tree approaching, she lashed out with her whip. The blow shook his very soul. It was only then that Zhuandi realized the vast difference in strength between him and Nuwa. Jie summoned the golden lotus of merit and virtue. With the lotus, his strength was greater than Junti's, but it was still nothing to Nuwa. The red hydrangea flew toward Jiayin, sending her spinning. Nuwa was at the 4th level of Honghuang Daluo Golden Immortal. Jiayin and Junti were only at the 2nd level, and their strength was diluted. They were no match for her. In moments, Jiayin and Junti were coughing blood and defeated. Nuwa scoffed. "You're just watered-down saints. Did you really think you could win through numbers?" Jiayin and Junti were humiliated but had to swallow their anger. "Nuwa, Hongjun is part of a larger plan. He's at the end of his rope. Do you really want to protect him?" They were ordered to eliminate Hongjun, a way to subtly repay some of the karma owed to heaven. They never thought Nuwa would interfere. If it weren't for the secret, Jiayin and Junti would have told Nuwa that they were acting on their teacher's orders. Chapter 32 Nuwa, I want the Hongmeng Purple Qi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But they couldn't just come out and say it, they had to be subtle. Nuwa, sharp as a tack, immediately figured it out. Sure, the Westerners were shameless, but they were still saints thanks to the Hongmeng Purple Qi. However, they'd never let their own disciples become stronger than them, so, they didn't want the Hongmeng Purple Qi for themselves, which meant they were after Hongjun. Their little reminder about following the teacher's orders was just a smokescreen. They didn't want to offend their teachers by getting involved, but Nuwa wasn't playing by the rules. Hongjun's fate was his problem, not hers. She wanted that Hongmeng Purple Qi. "I don't care about fate. I'm doing what I want. And if you try to stop me, I'll behead a saint." Nuwa's voice echoed through the world, shocking everyone to their core. Was Nuwa out of her mind? Their souls were bound to the way of heaven. How could she threaten to kill them? They were still saints, even if watered down. Saints were immortal. How dare she say such a thing? But remembering Nuwa's power, they clammed up. Maybe she actually could do it. Even as saints, they could feel the gap between their strength and hers. If Nuwa really wanted them dead, they might not escape the sea of blood alive. Hongjun, trapped in the netherworld sea of blood, finally understood. The Western saints weren't after his Hongmeng Purple Qi, they just wanted him dead, but he hadn't done anything to them. Why were they acting like Kunpeng? Then, he realized who was pulling the strings, though he could hardly believe it. Who else could motivate the Western saints? It had to be that person, but he hadn't done a thing. He'd even gotten the Hongmeng Purple Qi as a gift from them. Hongjun's mind raced, and he eyed Nuwa warily. If Kunpeng and Styx were after the Hongmeng Purple Qi, and the Westerners wanted him dead, what was Nuwa's angle? Suddenly, he remembered Nuwa had a disciple. It clicked, she was here for the Hongmeng Purple Qi too. As a quasi-sage facing the end of the line, he was toast. Better to throw himself at Nuwa's mercy than face the Westerners. Maybe he could trade the Hongmeng Purple Qi for her protection. With that thought, Hongjun practically flew toward Nuwa, yelling, "Sage Nuwa, I'll give you the Hongmeng Purple Qi. Just save my life." Nuwa looked at Hongjun. Jiayin and Junti exchanged panicked glances. Styx hadn't seen this coming. The Westerners were kicking themselves. They'd forgotten what Nuwa was really after. The Hongmeng Purple Qi. Their goals weren't aligned at all. They should have realized this sooner. They could have worked together and everyone would have gotten what they wanted. Now, they'd messed everything up. Hongjun was as good as dead. Defeated, the Westerners considered retreating. Besides, they owed Hongjun karma, and attacking him would only increase it. If it kept up, even saints couldn't handle the punishment. But if Hongjun got away, they'd never be able to repay their debt. Every time they saw him, they'd be reminded of their failure. They couldn't let that happen. With a grimace, they turned to Nuwa for help. "Junior sister Nuwa, we all want different things. You get Hongjun's Hongmeng Purple Qi, we get his life. What's wrong with that?" Nuwa wasn't interested in their excuses. She hated people who stabbed others in the back. Their shamelessness was beyond belief. "I don't care about your motives. I want the Hongmeng Purple Qi. Anyone who gets in my way is asking for trouble." As she spoke, a black lotus materialized behind her. Seeing the world-destroying black lotus, Jiayin, Junti, and Styx paled. The 12th grade world-destroying black lotus. Hadn't that belonged to the demon ancestor? How did Nuwa get it? The only thing they had going for them were their years of merit. with the Black Lotus in Nuwa's hands, they didn't stand a chance. Styx retreated into the sea of blood. He had a 12-grade karma fire red lotus, sure, but Nuwa was a saint. He wasn't crazy enough to fight her for the Hongmeng Purple Qi. The sea of blood was endless, and he was immortal within it, but a saint like Nuwa could easily destroy it if she wanted to. Junti and Jane were furious, but the Black Lotus forced their hand. They had to give up, at least for now. Before leaving, Jane gave Nuwa a hard look. "Nuwa, I hope you know what you're doing. Can you handle the consequences?" Nuwa knew who he was talking about, the one in Zhixiao Palace, but she just smiled. "If I can't, I won't bother my esteemed senior brothers." Seeing Nuwa's resolve, Jane and Junti vanished without a word. As soon as they were gone, Styx fled into the sea of blood. Then, Nuwa turned her attention to Hongjun. "Do you still stand by your offer?" Seeing the danger had passed, Hongjun nodded eagerly. "Absolutely." He ripped a strand of Hongmeng Purple Qi from his soul and handed it to Nuwa. Without hesitation, Nuwa absorbed the qi. Then, with a flick of her sleeve, Hongjun's spirit was pulled in, and she left. Meanwhile, on Kunlun Mountain, Sanqing watched the events in the netherworld sea of blood. Yuancher looked puzzled. Why did Nuwa get involved? They'd expected Hongjun's energy to be through the roof. Besides, Nuwa's disciple was only a Tai golden immortal. At that rate, it would take 1,000,000 years to become a quasi-sage. Was Nuwa planning that far ahead? Chapter 33. What will Hongjun do? You are listening at novelfull.audio. I shook my head too and turned to Tong Tian. Your disciple is tighter with Nuwa, so it's on you to figure this out. Tong Tian was honestly puzzled why Nuwa had stepped in this time. After a moment's thought, he said calmly, Nuwa does have a disciple, but I doubt he needs the Hongmeng Purple Qi just yet. If anyone really needs it, it's probably those two, right? Yuancher and I were floored by this statement. Come to think of it, it made a weird kind of sense. After all, Nuwa was also Emperor Hua of the Demon Court. Maybe she was plotting for the sake of Emperor Jun and Tai, but still, to offend two saints in a row, just for Jun and Tai? Was it really worth it? Sanqing racked their brains but couldn't come up with a satisfying answer. Nuwa, of course, was oblivious. She was too busy whisking Hongjun back to Shouyang Mountain. Meanwhile, inside Zhixiao Palace, Hongjun, who'd been sitting cross-legged on his futon, snapped his eyes open. Nuwa was definitely acting strange lately. Scratch that. She'd been acting especially strange ever since she established the human sect. First, she screwed up his plan to become a saint, and now she'd rescued Hongjun. What was her game here? Whatever it was, Nuwa was still within his control. For now, as long as he could steer the Lich Calamity through to completion, he could afford to cut her a little slack. At that moment, Nuwa felt a powerful presence abruptly withdraw. That must have been the busybody from Zhixiao Palace checking me out. She thought, without Hongjun's prying eyes. Nuwa picked up her pace and arrived at the foot of Shouyang Mountain in no time. Lu Feng, meanwhile, was chilling on his recliner, sipping tea. He hadn't forgotten to clock in for the day, either. Who the heck stole my 3-color divine water? I'm ticked. Guess I'll have to reinforce the formation around my 3-light divine water to keep the sticky-fingered bandits away. Just as Lu Feng finished speaking, the system pinged. Congratulations to the host for completing today's sign-in. Reward, Innate Spiritual Root Laurel Branch. Congratulations to the host for completing the Millennium Daily Sign-in. Achievement, Millennium Sign-in. Reward, Chaos Spiritual Root Flower. The two rewards popped into Lu Feng's hand simultaneously, nearly short-circuiting his brain. No way, the system was being extra generous today. He took one look at the description of the Chaos Spiritual Roots and started drooling. This thing was more than just a good thing, it was a game-changer. Chaos Spiritual Root Flower, plant in chaotic soil. Matures every 3,000 years, blooms every 3,000 years, bears fruit every 3,000 years. The fruit contains a strand of Hongmeng Purple Qi. Lu Feng wanted to jump for joy. Sweet, that this seemingly ordinary flower could actually produce Hongmeng Purple Qi. Sure, it took 9,000 years, but for the creatures of this primitive world, 9,000 years was a blink of an eye. Even for the big shots. With the Hongmeng Purple Qi in hand, promotion to sainthood would be a walk in the park. Lu Feng already had 2 strands of Hongmeng Purple Qi, by all rights. He was already well on his way to sanctification, but who would ever say no to more Hongmeng Purple Qi? With this thing, every quasi-sage cultivator would kill for it, right? Of course, he needed to think this through. As for the chaos-breathing soil needed for the other shore flower, Lu Feng had plenty. He'd scored a ton of it during his daily sign-ins, now he could use it to plant the flower. But where? He couldn't just plant it by his front door, he'd have to build a new formation, but that was a problem for another day. Having the other shore flower meant Lu Feng would be swimming in Hongmeng Purple Qi sooner or later. What was more pressing was that his teacher had now established the human sect. He had 2 strands of Hongmeng Purple Qi. Besides himself, the human sect could create another saint. That was the real priority. At the moment, the human sect was suppressed, and the way of humanity couldn't rise under the weight of the way of heaven. In the end, it was because there weren't enough saints. Originally, there should have been 21 saints in this ancient world, 7 in the heavenly realm, 7 in the human realm, and 7 more in the earthly realm, but Hongjun, that selfish jerk, had forcibly suppressed human nature and the underworld to bolster his own position. Effectively axing the 14 saints of the human and earthly realms. Now that he had the Bianhua flower, he could create at least 6 more saints. Then the human way in the ancient world could stand shoulder to shoulder with the way of heaven, no longer some forgotten afterthought, but he needed to tread carefully. After all, Daozu Hongjun was still a force to be reckoned with. As his disciple, his teacher was still far from being a match for the old coot. Just what level of cultivation is Daozu Hongjun at now? His teacher was already at the 4th level of Hunyuan Daoyuo Jingxian. Hongjun was probably at the 6th or even 7th, right? Plus, with the blessing of heaven, Lu Feng couldn't help but gulp. He had a long road ahead of him. But then the Lich calamity would break out, and the Earth's body would transform into reincarnation, establishing the earthly realm. If their humanity could win over the earthly realm, maybe they could stand up to Hongjun. After all, Ho Tu was a saint by destiny. If it weren't for Hongjun's machinations and his decision to hand her the heavenly Dao Hongmeng Purple Qi, Ho Tu wouldn't have gone from being an earthly saint to a heavenly saint, chained and controlled by his heavenly Dao. Same goes for Nuwa and Jin Yuanzi. If he could, Lu Feng would pull his teacher's soul out of the river of heaven and put it into the destiny of humanity. But the destiny of humanity hadn't fully formed yet. If Nuwa tried to extract her soul by force, she might just make Hongjun jealous. And then there was Jin Yuanzi, that poor, wrong dude. He should have had a spot among the saints. Now, Hongjun's scheming had torpedoed his chances of becoming a human saint. Lu Feng wondered what Jin Yuanzi would think when he finally caught wind of all this. Probably wanted to throw down with Hongjun, right? Lu Feng was also worried about his teacher. She was working hard to establish the human sect, and he wondered what Hongjun had planned for her. He thought back to how the teacher had created the human race, only to be tricked by Hongjun and imprisoned in the Hua Palace, forced to stand by while the prehistoric calamity unfolded. Even then, she'd been trying her best to look out for the human race. Even if she couldn't save them all, she still intervened in the Lich tribulation, that caused a full-blown war between the 2 Lich clans. It even took 1,000,000 years for the dust to settle. In the end, 11 of the 12 Witch clans had fallen in that battle. The remaining Hutu Empress turned into reincarnation. Chapter 34 I will snatch the Hongmeng Purple Qi that I found for you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If you really break it down, my teacher and the Empress are still at odds. To unite them, we gotta fix the mess the human race is in during this whole Lich tribulation thing. Otherwise, history repeats, and uniting everyone later becomes a pipe dream. Lu Feng's brain was firing on all cylinders, desperately trying to figure out how to get his teacher to help humanity thrive. This time, humanity can't get stomped on by the heavens. Nuwa, Jin Yuanzi, and Hongjun, they each represent a major force. Nuwa understands humanity, Jin Yuanzi the earth, and Hongjun, the heavenly way. They should be on equal footing, but my teacher is still a step behind Hongjun. That's a major disadvantage, and Lu Feng wasn't about to watch her get the short end of the stick again. Time-wise, everyone else who made saint is back in their spot, except for me. So, the Lich tribulation's gotta be right around the corner. I just hope I can become a saint before all hell breaks loose. For a second, Lu Feng even considered being a bit ruthless. but with his current power, trying to mess with a quasi-sage is a suicide mission. Besides, I was the strongest guy before the 3 pure ones became saints. Then my teacher intervened, and that was that. Otherwise, I'd be the second heavenly saint, after her. Now, even those 2 Westerners beat me to it. How messed up is that? Yeah, I'm not feeling the love right now. More like a major anxiety attack. Without a shot at becoming a saint, having the Hongmeng Purple Qi is pointless, but where do you even find new chances to get sanctified? Out of the 7 of us who got the Hongmeng Purple Qi ticket, only I and Hongjun are still stuck in line. Talk about depressing. Of course, Lu Feng couldn't feel his angst. He was busy trying to figure out how to get his teacher to notice the problems with the demon race. The human race took a major hit back when those 2 young bloods, Emperor Juntai, forged the witch-slaying sword. That seriously messed with our fate. This time, we have to shut that down for good. This whole Lich tribulation feels like a setup orchestrated by the heavens, designed to keep the top races in check, whether it's the Longhorn tribulation, the Lich tribulation we're in now, or the upcoming investiture of the gods and journey to the west. If Hongjun's not pulling the strings, I'll eat my hat. It all boils down to Hongjun and the heavenly way being selfish. One wants to squash the way of humanity and the earthly way, and the other wants to replace the heavenly way altogether. So they're happy to throw the entire prehistoric world under the bus. The Lich tribulation's meant to crush the witch and demon clans, especially the witch clan, with Pangu's bloodline running through their veins. The investiture of the gods is aimed at slowing down the booming human race. And journey to the west? That's just Hongjun's final power grab. Once that's done, he'll have complete control over the heavenly way. From then on, the heavenly way will be all about personal gain, and the way of humanity won't stand a chance, and Hongjun will use the entire prehistoric world as a stepping stone to reach the next level. Laozi and Yuancher somehow dodged most of the fallout. Nuwa and the others, not so lucky. They act all high and mighty, but they're just looking out for themselves. Lu Feng paused, then picked up the hibiscus flower again, keeping something as important as the flower of the other side right outside your cave. Not exactly Fort Knox. After thinking about it, Lu Feng decided to plant it on himself. After all, he had that chaos bead, right? The chaos bead is practically its own universe. With Lu Feng's current strength as a Daoyuo Golden Immortal, he could easily tweak the space inside the chaos bead to grow the flower of the other side. After cracking open the chaos bead, Lu Feng tossed in the chaos soil from his system storage and carefully placed the flower of the other side in the soil. Just after planting the flower, Lu Feng realized something was up. He turned around to see Nuwa sitting right next to him, grinning. Disciple, your teacher's got something nice for you today. Lu Feng's heart skipped a beat. He tried to hide the stuff on his desk, but Nuwa had already spotted the 2 wisps of purple energy floating on the table. For a second, Nuwa wondered if she'd been bamboozled. That stuff on the table looks suspiciously like the Hongmeng Purple Qi, doesn't it? And there's 2 of them. Lu Feng was having a full-blown panic attack. Crap. All I wanted to do was tidy up my space, and then my teacher just pops in. How am I supposed to explain this? Need help ASAP. Nuwa's mind went into overdrive. Could the purple aura on Lu Feng's desk have been hers all along? But when Nuwa pulled a wisp of purple energy from her sleeve, she locked eyes with Lu Feng again. Where did you get the Hongmeng Purple Qi? Lu Feng blinked innocently. Nuwa was starting to think she'd seriously underestimated her disciple. Logically speaking, there should only be 7 wisps of Hongmeng Purple Qi in the ancient world. Hongjun gave 6 of them away, and Hongyun ended up with the last one. So where did these 2 come from? Did he steal them? Wasn't he just talking about snatching the Hongmeng Purple Qi from Hongyun a while back? Otherwise, she wouldn't have had to risk making enemies of those 2 saints to swipe that wisp of Hongmeng Purple Qi from Hongyun, and now Lu Feng's got 2 of them. Were her efforts all for nothing? Lu Feng's brain was racing a mile a minute. My teacher obviously saw the Hongmeng Purple Qi on the table. It's too late to hide it. If that's the case, time to change the subject. Lu Feng quickly hid the Hongmeng Purple Qi and gave his teacher an innocent look. Teacher, what did you say you came to see me for? Did you bring me a present? Nuwa was taken aback for a moment, then remembered why she was there. She immediately pulled the Hongmeng Purple Qi out of her sleeve and offered it to Lu Feng. This is the Hongmeng Purple Qi your teacher swiped for you. Halfway through, Nuwa stopped dead. My disciple already has 2. So the Hongmeng Purple Qi she got is useless? Lu Feng saw Nuwa's expression change and kept the diversion going. Teacher, where did you get this Hongmeng Purple Qi? Lu Feng hoped his teacher wasn't immature enough to go with Di Jun and the others to try and steal the Hongmeng Purple Qi from Hongjun. After all, Di Jun and company were just quasi-sages, while his teacher was already a full-blown saint. There's no way she'd stoop to that, right? Besides, his teacher didn't seem like the type to steal stuff. Chapter 35 The Origin of Chaos Qinglian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Actually, Nuwa had planned to snag that thing from the start, but then she ran into those 2 guys picking up players, so she switched from snatching to swapping. Nuwa cleared her throat. Hongjun and I traded for it, obviously. She felt a little guilty saying that. Lu Feng looked confused. Hongjun was willing to trade with you, teacher. That's the key to becoming a saint. Nuwa was feeling confident now. She did trade for it. No robbery involved. Lu Feng was thinking something else entirely. Hongjun's alive. Everyone knew Hongjun was in a certain death situation. If his teacher traded the Hongmeng Purple Qi with him, wouldn't that mean Hongjun was doing just fine? Those 2 Westerners owed Hongjun big time, and they had Daozu's orders to deal with him. They'd been secretly tailing the emperor and the others, ready to jump in, but if Hongjun was alive and kicking, was his teacher going up against those 2 now? They're saints, after all. And his teacher didn't seem hurt. Had she gotten so strong she could hold her own against 2 saints at once? For a second, Lu Feng wanted to cheer, but then he remembered his teacher, willing to piss off the West just to give him that Hongmeng Purple Qi. Lu Feng felt a lump in his throat. Thank you, teacher. You're so good to your disciples. I'd give my life for you. Nuwa looked at him, puzzled. Lu Feng realized he was getting carried away. I pledge myself to Rinjiao and will do everything I can to revitalize it for you. Nuwa's gaze softened. Her disciple usually acted like a goofball, always trying to show off. Now he was getting all emotional. Nuwa thought about it and handed him the Hongmeng Purple Qi. She had no use for it anyway. Lu Feng had said he wanted the Hongmeng Purple Qi in Hongjun's hands, so here it was. She conveniently ignored the 2 beams of Hongmeng Purple Qi Lu Feng already had. Lu Feng took the Hongmeng Purple Qi and sighed in relief. You're not ready to use this yet, disciple. Keep it safe, and don't let anyone steal it. Lu Feng knew that. Now he had 3 of those things. He'd better be careful to avoid becoming a target. Thank you for the reminder, master. I'll keep a low profile. Are you heading back to a palace now? Nuwa had wanted to hang out with her disciple for a while longer. He had so many cool gadgets. But since Lu Feng was asking, she couldn't really stick around. She pointed at the little chairs in Lu Feng's cave. Those chairs are pretty well made. Mind if I take them back to a palace? Lu Feng was surprised. He hadn't expected Nuwa to like the little chairs he'd made in his free time, but he quickly packed them up and gave them to his teacher. She'd gotten a Hongmeng Purple Qi just for him, after all. What were a few chairs? But then Nuwa's eyes landed on the recliner he was sitting on. That recliner's nice too. I'll pack it up for you, teacher, to take back. I tasted the spiritual tea here and thought it was really good. I'll pack some for you, teacher. The lotuses outside the cave are blooming beautifully, but my Nuwa palace could use some greenery. I'll get them for you, teacher. Lu Feng watched Nuwa cart off half the lotus flowers from his little pond, plus all kinds of gadgets he'd tinkered with. He was about to cry. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Nuwa was happy. She'd worked hard today. What was wrong with taking a few things from her own apprentice? Besides, she hadn't asked for anything expensive. And she was a saint. And Nuwa palace wasn't as cozy as his cave. So what? Lu Feng didn't know what Nuwa was thinking. He was just happily stuffing the Hongmeng Purple Qi back in his pocket. Today's a good day. Humming to himself, Lu Feng immediately started his daily check-in routine. I swear. Teacher's the kindest person in the world. I love her so much. But could you maybe bring fewer things from my cave next time? She practically emptied the place. After signing in, Lu Feng got today's reward, a piece of the origin of Chaos Green Lotus. Lu Feng usually got a lot of innate spiritual roots from signing in. But the origin of Chaos Green Lotus was more useful for his cultivation. The system was usually stingy with this stuff, and it took a long time to refresh, so when he suddenly got it from the sign-in, Lu Feng was shocked. This could improve your origins, and he was already an innate demon. Ordinary innate spiritual roots didn't have much effect on his origins anymore, but he could still feel his improving slowly. If he kept at it, could this really help him improve a lot? Could he evolve even further? Lu Feng was excited just thinking about it. He grabbed the Chaos Green Lotus origin, rushed back into the cave, and sat down to absorb it, but the Lich War was coming, and he couldn't do anything this important in his cave. He had to be patient. Then again, maybe his Chaos Bead was safer. Lu Feng vanished and appeared in the world of Chaos Beads. After becoming a Daluo Jinxian, Lu Feng had more control over the laws of space. Inside the Chaos Bead had been gray, but he'd modified it so it now had a touch of green, no, a touch of red. It had been gray, but now a Bianhua flower was planted inside. Lu Feng sat down, focused, and began to refine the origin of the Chaos Green Lotus. Chapter 36. How is this possible? You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the same time, the Dao Hongliang method kicked into high gear. Lu Feng was saturated with the power of the 3,000 laws, an overwhelming force practically radiating from him. Inside the Chaos Bead, space itself vibrated. Lu Feng had hoped the Chaos Bead space would mask the strange phenomena occurring within him, but he'd underestimated the magnitude of the situation he triggered. Across the vast wilderness, everyone witnessed the unrestrained surge of the 3,000 laws. Lu Feng, oblivious, remained unaware. Unbeknownst to him, countless powerful figures in the prehistoric world were on the move because of him. Golden clouds billowed in the sky, Sanskrit chants echoing from within, purple energy suffused the prehistoric world, yet no saintly voice emerged. After a long wait, the powerful were dumbfounded. The spectacle resembled a promotion to sainthood, but why wasn't a saint appearing? Lu Feng simply aimed to rapidly absorb the origin of the chaotic green lotus before him. Prior to absorption, he hadn't grasped its immense value, but afterward, he was utterly astounded. The origin of this chaos green lotus was truly something special. He watched, speechless, as the chaos green lotus behind him sprouted even more petals. Counting meticulously, he gasped. 24 petals. Modern lotuses only ranked around 12, but he had already surpassed 24. Remember, Pangu had split open the prehistoric era. Pangu was only the 36th grade Chaos Qinglian back then, right? At this rate, Lu Feng needed only one more infusion of the Chaos Green Lotus's origin to potentially become a 36th grade Chaos Green Lotus, matching Pangu himself. The thought of being on par with Pangu thrilled him. That was Pangu, the apex predator among the innate demon gods. He'd withstood the onslaught of 3,000 demon gods and emerged victorious. If he truly cultivated to the 36th grade Chaos Green Lotus, wouldn't he rule the ancient world? No, the entire universe. But for now, it was only a dream. The Chaos Green Lotus's origin wasn't easily acquired. Otherwise, his system wouldn't be so-so, and it's been a long time since I've done this for myself. Lu Feng luxuriated in absorbing the Chaos Green Lotus's essence. Meanwhile, the prehistoric world was exploding with speculation. Countless powerhouses anticipated the arrival of a new saint. Instead, they witnessed the emergence of a chaotic green lotus icon. A simple chaos green lotus dharma wouldn't warrant attention, but this green lotus dharma manifested at 24 grades. What did a 24th grade Qinglian dharma signify? It surpassed their comprehension of 12 levels, even its foundations dwarfed Sanqing's. Who was this 24th ranked Qinglian dharma? What had triggered such a vision? Amidst the confusion, discussions erupted across the board regarding this phenomenon. Inside the demon temple, Di Jun and Tai Yi stared at the young Faxiang, bewildered. Does a 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus truly exist? Apparently so. But I never imagined it might now be taking human form. He was born with an extraordinary heritage, even compared to Dijun and Tai Yi, he was far superior. Tai Yi felt a twinge of envy. The transformation of this 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus has caused quite a stir. I'm afraid we will have to welcome a new quasi-sage in the near future. Dijun smiled knowingly. He is Qinglian, and it is reasonable to recruit him into our demon clan. Tai Yi immediately understood, slamming his fist on the table. Then I'll go find this Green Lotus now, that with such a talent under their command, the demon clan's prosperity was assured. Dijun wasn't the only one shaken, Kunlun Mountain was equally unsettled. Sanqing watched the Green Lotus in the sky, their expressions complex. They had always considered themselves exceptional, as incarnations of Pangu's primordial spirit, they were far nobler than the witch clan. But now, a 24th grade Green Lotus emerged. This gave Sanqing a sense of unease. They hadn't forgotten that their holy father was the 36th grade Chaos Qinglian. The 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus must be taking form, hence the natural phenomenon, but the scale was immense, comparable to their own sanctification. If such a being continued to grow, reaching quasi-sage status was inevitable. Fortunately, only 7 rays of Hongmeng Purple Qi existed in the vast wilderness. They had already divided 6 paths among themselves, and Nuwa possessed the last one. It was nearly impossible for this Chaos Green Lotus to wrest the final burst of Hongmeng Purple Qi from Nuwa. Without the Hongmeng Purple Qi, sainthood was unattainable. Yi and Yuanshi exchanged glances, secretly relieved. Tong Tian, sitting beside them, harbored a spark of competitive fire. Unconsciously, his brothers were celebrating the avoidance of a major threat. Wuzhuang Temple, the ginseng fruit tree rustled. Zhen Yuanzi looked up, his eyes filled with emotion. His own transformation had triggered a natural vision. But the vision of this 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus was mind-boggling. In terms of origins, only Sanqing compared, right? Even the one from Zixiao Palace. Zhen Yuanzi suppressed the thought, regaining his composure. In the dark sea of blood, a figure emerged briefly, then vanished again. Soon after, the golden clouds dispersed, replaced by thunderclouds. The rolling thunderclouds would frighten even a saint. Calamity clouds. This was the most catastrophic thunder disaster in history. Purple lightning roiled within the clouds. A count revealed 108 strikes. Ordinary thunder catastrophes typically involve 99 and 81. Heaven was unleashing 108 thunder tribulations. An attempt to obliterate the newly transformed 24th grade Chaos Qinglian. Even Dijun and others sighed with pity for this 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus. 108 lightning tribulations so soon after transformation. This Green Lotus was doomed. However, the thunderclouds massed on the horizon for a long time, but no lightning struck. This baffled everyone. Hongjun in Zixiao Palace was equally perplexed. What did you say? No target? How is that possible? Hongjun's eyes nearly popped out. Chapter 37 Level 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Well, it is what it is. Looks like Tiandao's got no one to mess with right now. He can sense this grade 24 Chaos Green Lotus is forming, but he can't pinpoint its location. It's got Tiandao feeling a little down. Hours pass, and the thunderclouds on the horizon just fizzle out, disappearing with a whimper. All these big shots have been waiting forever, only to see Tiandao back off with its tail between its legs. Talk about a shock. Seriously? Even the heavenly law can't zap this Green Lotus? That's just insane. Over at Lingshan, the second saint of the West watched the thunderclouds come and go, trying to figure things out. But no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't locate this 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus. Jiayin finally gave up and just chuckled sadly. Guess this Green Lotus wasn't meant for us in the West after all. It just reminds me how poor our land is, not as fertile as the East. Just makes me more envious. And it wasn't just the Westerners getting greedy, even some folks on Kunlun Mountain were starting to drool. At first, I and Yuanshi were just wary of this 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus, but now that they know even Heavenly Tao can't touch it, Yuanshi, with his obsession with pedigree, is getting ideas. You can't get better than this 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus. Imagine getting this thing under his wing. It'd be a major win. And it wasn't just Yuan Shi. I was feeling pretty envious too, only problem is, he's not even a saint yet, let alone trying to recruit a disciple. Tong Tian was pretty chill about it. If he wanted a disciple, he'd get one, but his second brother's already made his intentions clear, and he doesn't want to cause a scene. After discussing the whole disciple thing, Yuan Shi was itching to find this green lotus. Now that this grade 24 Chaos Green Lotus has transformed, and even heaven can't find it, it's going to be a tough hunt. I nodded. This 24th grade Green Lotus has some serious potential. We're probably not the only ones in the game. But you two are saints. Junior sister Nuwa already has a Green Lotus disciple. That just leaves the two Westerners who need space. The Westerners had no idea they were on Kunlun Mountain's hit list. They were still moping around, hearing that the Westerners might be after his apprentice. Yuan Shi slammed his hand on the table. They only became saints through sheer luck. With my third brother here, there's no way they're snatching this apprentice. Speaking of which, how do we even find this green lotus? Tong Tian shook his head. They say Qinglian have a connection. Even though junior sister Nuwa's disciple Lu Feng is just a 12th grade Chaos Qinglian, maybe he can sense it on some level. Yuan Shi's face changed. He remembered saying some pretty harsh things to Lu Feng before, but then another thought hit him. Wait, you don't think Lu Feng somehow leveled up to the 24th rank Chaos Qinglian, do you? The thought blew Yuan Shi's mind. I and Tong Tian shot that idea down immediately. No way. Sure, they're both Chaos Qinglian, but Lu Feng's already transformed. Today's vision is clearly from a brand new 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus forming. Besides, how could Lu Feng jump from 12th grade to 24th? It's just impossible. Hearing his brother's logic, Yuan Shi dropped the thought. Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous, just a random idea, nothing more. Meanwhile, back at Wa Palace, Nuwa's eyebrows were twitching like crazy. She had a hunch her star pupil was behind this, and that Chaos Green Lotus statue. Nuwa knew it all too well. Except for the number of petals, it looked exactly like her disciple's Chaos Green Lotus. Then Nuwa remembered something Lu Feng mentioned in his daily reports. He jumped from the 3rd grade Qinglian to the 12th grade Chaos Qinglian of the innate demon god thanks to those innate spiritual roots and a little help from the origin of the Chaos Green Lotus. Lu Feng had collected tons of innate spiritual roots over the years, but she hadn't heard of Lu Feng leveling up again. Usually, it's the spiritual roots that give him the boost, but what if Lu Feng got his hands on another ball of chaotic Green Lotus origin? Could he actually break through from 12th grade to 24th? Of course, it was just a theory, but Nuwa's gut told her she was right, and she had to help Lu Feng cover his tracks. If word got out about Lu Feng's potential, and they connected it to the thunderclouds today, heaven wouldn't let him live. Nuwa started to panic. How was she going to hide her apprentice's secret? Then, she thought of a treasure. Only a few things in this ancient world can hide secrets from heaven: the Hichu Luo Shu in Dijuan's hands, the golden lotus of merit and virtue in Jane's hand, and Styx's red lotus of karma, and Lu Feng's world-destroying black lotus. Sanqing also had magic weapons that could do the trick, but the only option for Lu Feng here was the Hichu Luo Shu in Dijuan's hands. At that moment, the emperor didn't even know a saint was eyeing his magic weapon, busy trying to figure out how to get this 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus on his side. As for the guy at the center of all this, Lu Feng was still focused on working on his top 3 flowers. Now that his foundations had been boosted, Lu Feng didn't want to use the chaotic Green Lotus source to get stronger. He was already doing pretty well as an early-stage Daoyuo Jingxian. Getting stronger would just draw too much attention, so, if he couldn't use it to improve his strength, he'd use it to power up his top 3 flowers. The foundation boost had given Lu Feng a hunch he could make a breakthrough with his top 3 flowers. Most of the saints in the ancient world have 3 flowers blooming overhead at the 8th grade. Sanqing and Nuwa are all 8th grade. Other Luo Jingxian and those with quasi-sage strength are at the 6th or 7th grade. A few outstanding quasi-sages, like Xin Yuanzi, Hongjun, and Taoist Mingyi, also have 8th grade flowers. Only Daozu Hongjun has achieved the top 3 flowers and 9 grades as perfection in the entire prehistoric era, but Lu Feng had a feeling that 9th grade was the limit, not the max. What did that mean? Maybe there were 12 more grades above ninth grade, it's just that no one had reached them, so ninth grade had become the standard. Chapter 38 One gained nothing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But now that Lu Feng had seriously upgraded his mojo, he still had plenty of that chaotic green lotus energy to burn. It'd be a total waste to use it to just pump up his strength when he could be mastering the top 3 flowers. Plus, Lu Feng was super curious to see what would happen when he hit the max level of Luo, that 12th rank, so, Lu Feng dove headfirst into seclusion. Meanwhile, the system kept logging in for Lu Feng automatically every day, even though Lu Feng was laser-focused on hitting that 12th rank and mastering the 3 flowers. He still made sure to check in daily, even if just barely. The dude did not want to have to grind for years to catch up on those reports again. During this grind, the system hooked him up with some sweet login rewards, including a ton of cool gear, but the standout prize was this heavenly secret disc. Heaven's secret disc unveils celestial secrets. In the chaos, no secrets from the heavens can be hidden. Lu Feng was practically speechless after reading the manual. Secrets hidden by the very fabric of the heavens were laid bare before him. Did that mean Hongjun would basically be walking around naked in the astral plane now? That was almost too much power. If Lu Feng ever wanted to scheme, he could just fire up the Tianji disk and get the lowdown. Basically, he'd just installed a superpowered cheat code into his life. While Lu Feng was blissfully leveling up, things back in the prehistoric era were getting a little hairy ever since his Dharma form vanished. Even the Xixiao Palace, which had been chilling for millennia, started buzzing again. All ye saints of the heavens, gather at Xixiao Palace for urgent council. That the moment that decree dropped, power players everywhere were shook. Looks like this thing had finally gotten Daozu's attention. The only question was, what was Dao Ancestor planning to do about that 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus? All the saints were on edge, but Nuwa was extra jumpy. Her gut told her Daozu wasn't calling this meeting for anything good, and it might even be about her apprentice. But Nuwa swallowed her annoyance and hauled ass to Xixiao Palace. Yuanshi and Tong Tian were quick to bounce from Kunlun Mountain too. On the other hand, things were awkward. By now, I should have been a saint, if Nuwa hadn't jacked my shot at becoming a saint, but as it stood, I wasn't, and the teacher had only called for saints, so was I even invited? Yuanshi saw that I was dragging my feet and grabbed my sleeve halfway there, dragging me all the way to Xixiao Palace. Hongjun was perched in the center of Xixiao Palace, and the 6 of us filed in, bowing and greeting him. Greetings, Daoist Hongjun and holy teacher. Hongjun's eyes swept over the 6 of us, finally landing on me with a look that was hard to read. Originally, I should have become a saint at this point, but here I was, the only quasi-sage in the bunch. Now there was no way Nuwa could hand the human doctrine back to Laozi, so I had to find another path to sainthood. Looks like he's got to cook something up again. This was the most important card he held. I'm also the crucial figure in the master plan. Catching Hongjun's gaze, I felt my cheeks burn. I used to be the strongest of the 6, and now I was the weakest. Hongjun didn't say anything, just spoke softly. You all know by now that the 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus has manifested, and the celestial phenomena are clearly a disruption to the heavens. I've summoned you here today to destroy the 24th grade Chaos Qinglian. Everyone in the room was floored. Wait, heaven still wants to torch this Chaos Green Lotus? Everyone couldn't help but feel bummed that the only grade 24 Chaos Green Lotus in existence was about to get Thanos snapped, especially the 3 of us. We felt the weight of this grade 24 Chaos Green Lotus the most. After all, the magic items in our hands were forged from a 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus. Back then, thanks to Heaven's ban, that 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus transformed into spiritual treasures in our hands without even having a chance to blossom. Now, the same thing was happening again, except this time, Chaos Qinglian wouldn't even get the chance to differentiate. I kept my mouth shut, waiting for the others to jump in. I wasn't even a saint yet, so it was best not to stick my nose in. On the other hand, those 2 looked awkward. Teacher, I've actually deduced the location of the Chaos Qinglian, but given my abilities. He didn't even need to finish the sentence. Even with the power of a guiding saint, pinpointing the location of the living being was impossible. Yuanshi and Tong Tian both scowled. Then let us 2 give it a shot. With that, Yuanshi and Tong Tian started trying to crack the secret of heaven using their saintly powers, but no matter how hard they tried, all they saw was a blurry mess, not even a hint of green lotus petals. Both Yuan Shi and Tong Tian were stunned. If the two guides couldn't figure it out, maybe they just weren't strong enough, but it was seriously weird that even these two real-deal saints couldn't crack it. Normally, for them, the saints of heaven, teasing out celestial secrets was as easy as snapping their fingers, unless someone was deliberately obscuring the truth, but even then, there should at least be some kind of trace. But now, forget traces, they didn't even see a shadow. Yuan Shi and Tong Tian cleared their throats and turned their attention to Nuwa, who was standing quietly to the side. Of the five of them, Nuwa was the top-tier saint. "Junior sister Nuwa, why don't you give it a whirl?" Nuwa saw the looks on Yuan Shi's and the others' faces and knew this was a dead end, but she played along anyway. "Alright, I'll give it a shot." After Nuwa fired up her own Saint Taoism calculations, a flicker of surprise crossed her face. She'd figured she wouldn't be able to see anything, but she couldn't even see anything. Lowering her hand, Nuwa's face showed a hint of embarrassment. "Teacher, I can't figure it out either." "What's going on?" Truth was, even Hongjun himself was in the dark. If he didn't have heaven's blessing, he wouldn't have bothered summoning all these saintly disciples. "It doesn't hurt to keep trying. We'll pool our efforts." "I refuse to believe there won't be any clues." Hongjun's words made Nuwa's heart skip a beat, but she calmly took her seat on her futon. I stood awkwardly to the side, silently watching Hongjun and the other six fire up their holy methods. Endless holy laws unfurled, and a long river of destiny materialized above their heads. The six of them scoured every inch of that river, but came up empty. Chapter 39, Is There Any Chance to Be a Rebel Disciple? You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a long search, the six of them looked grim. Nuwa felt a flicker of satisfaction. One by one, they retracted their divine senses. Yuan Shi spoke hesitantly. "Even combined, we can't find a trace of that Qinglian. All they found were fragments of the 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus." Hongjun's face was impassive. "I already scanned the area with the power of heaven, and even with your help, we still can't locate it. It seems that this green lotus is obscuring the secrets of heaven." Everyone was stunned. It wasn't unusual for things to hide from heaven's gaze. What was rare was that this newly manifested green lotus could evade a joint search by six of them. Even Di Jun's Hichu Luoshu might not be able to pull that off. A 24th grade Chaos Green Lotus was already alarming enough. Now this treasure is also able to hide from heaven. If word got out, it would send shockwaves. Nuwa paused, then spoke. "Teacher, after searching for so long, I haven't found any sign of the Qinglian. Could it be that fate is on its side?" Yuan Shi, Tong Tian, and the others perked up at Nuwa's words. Yuan Shi jumped in quickly. "If this green lotus could join my Xian sect, wouldn't that be a blessing?" He had been eyeing that 24th grade green lotus for a while. "It would be a shame if it were snuffed out. Besides, it had already taken form. If it was the 24th grade Chaos Qinglian before it transformed, erasing it wouldn't be a problem, but now, killing it would be against the natural order." Tong Tian nodded in agreement. "Exactly, with proper guidance, it can't come to harm." Jiayin and Junti didn't want to miss out on this opportunity. That grade 24 Chaos Green Lotus was no ordinary object. The teacher wanted to eliminate it. If they offered to save it, then the Green Lotus would owe them a debt. That would lighten their own karmic burden. Regardless of whether this Green Lotus had any connection to the West, they just needed to secure it. Hongjun seemed surprised by his disciple's stance, but he responded. "Although there's always a chance for redemption, this grade 24 Chaos Green Lotus isn't just an innate spiritual treasure, it's a supreme treasure of chaos." The saint's expressions changed. There was a huge difference between innate spiritual treasures and chaos treasures. Chaos treasures were far superior. The teacher's statement implied something about this chaos treasure. Hongjun continued. "If it had been born from chaos, that would be one thing. But it's roaming the wilderness. If it's allowed to continue, it could threaten the safety of the prehistoric world and even plunge it into chaos." Nuwa and the others didn't dare suggest sparing the Qinglian. The prehistoric era was their foundation. If it were destroyed, even as saints, their power would be severely diminished. Since they couldn't find it, Hongjun had to let it go for now. "Keep an eye out. If you find the one who transformed from this chaos green lotus, eliminate them immediately. Yuan Shi and the others replied solemnly. We understand. Hongjun nodded and vanished. Farewell, teacher. After Hongjun left, they stood and prepared to depart. I and Yuan Shi exchanged glances and left Zixiao Palace. As Hongjun's loyal followers, they obeyed his every word. The Westerners just exchanged a look and curled their lips. What threat? Just because its origins were extraordinary, heaven felt threatened. After all, this child's origins were superior to Sanqing's, and even Hongjun might not be able to control it. That's why they wanted to eliminate it before it grew, to avoid trouble later. But in reality, this Qinglian had just transformed. How could it be destructive if properly guided? Pangu was originally the 36th grade Chaos Qinglian, and he didn't do anything harmful to the prehistoric era. The Westerners didn't take the idea of eliminating this green lotus to heart. Instead, they wondered if they could bring it back to the West. Xian men wouldn't accept it, so it would be better to have it take root in their Lingshan. Zhuani also had a small bottle of Songguang divine water. He decided that if this little green lotus was willing to return to Lingshan with him, he would use the Songguang divine water to nurture it. The lotuses of the 3rd, 6th, and 9th grades all received Songguang divine water. What was wrong with nurturing this 24th grade green lotus with Songguang divine water? He was stingy, sure, but he was more than willing in this case. As long as this little Qinglian was willing to come home with him. Nuwa and Tongtian looked at each other and left Zixiao Palace. Tongtian's path was to defy heaven. He sought that glimmer of hope, so he wouldn't kill that green lotus, but the teacher had given an order, so Tongtian set it aside. Nuwa was thinking about her beloved disciple. If it weren't for the timing, she would check the records of her disciples in Dao Pan. If that grade 24 Chaos Qinglian really was one of them, Nuwa wouldn't let anyone lay a finger on her disciple. What a disaster, what a load of bull. Her disciples were diligent and respectful. How could they be a calamity? If Yuan Shi dared to touch Lu Feng, Nuwa wouldn't hesitate to strike first. Back at Hua Palace, Nuwa took out the great plate. Sure enough, her disciples' daily reports had been updated. I didn't expect Master to be so kind to me. I love Master so much. If I wasn't afraid of Master, I would have offered myself to you, but Master would definitely beat me up, so I'd better just imagine it. Nuwa's lips twitched. Traitor. It sounded weird at the time. But thinking about it, there was no better teacher than herself. This kid was lucky. Lu Feng's report continued. Today, my teacher discovered that I still had 2 streaks of Hongmeng Purple Qi. Luckily, I changed the subject, or there would be no way to explain it. But I didn't expect that the teacher, who is usually very shrewd, would be quite easy to fool today. I just don't know if I still have a chance to become a master and a rebel disciple. Chapter 40 The Scenery Seen by the Pool. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing this, Nuwa was puzzled again. It was the millionth time she'd heard that word. Unlike other words Lu Feng used, she could barely grasp its meaning. Nuwa pondered it but couldn't figure it out. Guess she'd have to swipe it from Lu Feng later. With that thought, Nuwa refocused on the road. Lu Feng's thoughts continued. Good thing I grabbed those chaos flowers early, or this would be a real head-scratcher. But with the chaos beyond flower, we'll have an endless supply of Hongmeng Purple Qi, even if it takes 9,000 years to get just one. Still, for the sake of the teacher's humanitarian project, gotta hustle. Wish there was some kind of forestry that could speed things up. Maybe I'll find some next time. Nuwa froze. Flower of chaos. Never heard of it. But Lu Feng claimed it could produce Hongmeng Purple Qi. She wondered if she'd misheard. Lu Feng's voice went on. My teacher is so kind and beautiful, and some puny god dares to plot against her. Just wait until I've trained 7 saints for humanity, then I'll help the teacher get even. Nuwa was touched, but what Lu Feng said still shocked her. The god's plot. Was she being targeted by heaven itself? And Lu Feng was secretly planning revenge for her. Nuwa's heart swelled. That's her boy. Worth the pain, but the chaos flower Lu Feng mentioned still surprised her. Could there really be such a treasure? Could it actually generate endless Hongmeng Purple Qi? Hongjun had spent decades hiding in Wuzhuang Temple before daring to reappear, all for a wisp of that stuff. Even Taoist sticks, who only cared about training, tried to snatch it. not to mention Qinglian and Jun's disciples. Now Lu Feng was saying the chaos beyond flower could birth a grand purple energy in only 9,000 years. If that really happened, the prehistoric times would be crawling with saints. Come to think of it, maybe her student wasn't sharing the full story. If word got out about this treasure, the whole place would descend into chaos. Nuwa shuddered at the thought and resolved to keep her student safe. Better lay low for a while. If things hit the fan, Nuwa could show up in a heartbeat. After figuring out the plan, Nuwa replayed her disciples' words, a God's plot, revitalize humanity. What was this humanity thing? Sounds like it's supposed to be on the same level as heaven, but right now, heaven was calling all the shots. As the saying goes, the great road is 50 and the heaven is 49. Escape a glimmer of hope. If there is that glimmer of hope, the current heavenly way can directly fulfill the great Tao. As the saints of heaven, they were able to run rampant in the wilderness. As the saints of heaven, they were able to run rampant in the wilderness. Thinking back on her student's words, Nuwa had a feeling humanity was tied to her, or the human race she created. If the heavenly way was plotting, it must be because humanity was a threat. Nuwa shivered. She never would have figured it out if it wasn't for her student, but what she really wanted to know was that grade 24 Chaos Green Lotus her own disciple? Just as I was thinking about it, the road plate was updated again. Thank goodness. I was smart enough to refine the origin of the Chaos Green Lotus with the Chaos Bead. Otherwise, heaven would have fried me. The heavenly way is so stubborn. When I get humanity going, you'll be the first to go. So you're coming after me? Now that I've become the 24th grade Chaos Qinglian, it must be because heaven's scared, so it'll do anything to kill me. If thunder hadn't nearly killed me, they would have found another reason to dig me out of the wilderness. Nuwa stared, dumbfounded. So she was her student. Nuwa was 80% sure before. After hearing Lu Feng, she was 100% convinced. So Hongjun wants to kill my apprentice before she grows up. Not on her watch. Not even Tao ancestor Hongjun could touch her student. Nuwa was relieved that Lu Feng had a treasure that masked the secrets of heaven. Otherwise, they'd be in real trouble. Looks like Lu Feng was sitting on a pile of treasure. Besides the 24 Dinghai divine pearls Tong Tian gave him, he also had the 12th grade world-destroying Black Lotus, plus that god-killing spear he mentioned earlier. He was probably richer than the rest of the prehistoric period combined. But that made Nuwa even more worried. Lu Feng had grown into a threat to heaven. And Hongjun was ready to kill him without hesitation. If others figured out Lu Feng's identity, even she might not be able to save him. Nuwa was so worried about Lu Feng that she couldn't even listen to the rest of the Dao Pan. She vanished from Wa's palace. Back in the Wa palace, the Dao Pan murmured. You've broken through with your heel and foot, why don't you take a bath today to celebrate? Nuwa, still worried about Lu Feng, forgot to warn him and barged straight into his cave. Lu Feng was caught completely off guard. He was soaking in the pool, taking a bath, and nearly choked. Nuwa stood by the pool, staring at Lu Feng's naked body, and flashed back to his earlier promises. She felt her ears burn and quickly turned away. Get cleaned up. With that, Nuwa fled the cave like her tail was on fire. Lu Feng shook his head. He'd wanted to soak a little longer, but guess that was out. The master must be here on important business. Lu Feng threw on a robe and walked out of the cave, hair still wet. Nuwa heard the noise and looked back to see her student emerge, looking disheveled. She couldn't help but think back to the scene by the pool.